recent flooding in South Carolina caused up to $1 billion in damage, noted by CNBC on October 5th of 2015. They note that nearly all of this damage comes from the 2.2 million homes that were left uninsured. Although uninsured, the sad reality is that this delusional problem could have been largely prevented. You see, although many in California are currently all too familiar with a lack of water, the truth is there are thousands around the world that are literally drowning in it. So, in honor of El Nino, I'd like to propose one possible way we can reduce the harsh effects of global flooding. How, you ask? Through permeable pavement, particularly through Topmix, a product of the UK-based Lafarge Tarmac company. Topmix is unquestionably the most efficient way to absorb water quickly, and we'll examine it, first by taking a look at the mechanics behind how this product works. Secondly, looking at a few of its most important advantages, and finally addressing 3 of the most common criticisms to the use of this system. So let's begin by taking a look behind the mechanics of this fascinating new surface. Topmix is a concrete mix, which allows the water that hits it to permeate through it and filter back into the ground beneath it. Although permeable materials were initially introduced in the late 1960s, there were a number of inhibiting factors which prevented its widespread success. That's why it was so shocking on April 2nd of 2015 when Lafarge Tarmac released a video showcasing their latest permeable pavement. It's called Topmix, and it boasts the impressive ability of being able to absorb up to 880 gallons of water in 60 seconds. Now, although permeable pavement has been used in various forms throughout the years, Topmix claims to be the best by utilizing particularly what's called a 3-tiered approach. The first layer of material is put on top of a subbase material which forms the foundation for load bearing. This is then placed on top of the ground soil. This 3-tiered approach allows Topmix to more easily direct the water to various locations. It has a permeability rate of 1,400 inches an hour. So at that rate, a single square foot placed on the bottom of an Olympic-sized pool could absorb the entire body of water in about 15 minutes. Now, although Topmix is unquestionably the most attractive way to absorb water quickly, its cost is nearly twice as much as standard impermeable materials. And so, before we move on too quickly, we need to take time to examine 3 of its most important advantages. The first is that the use of this system is typically adopted where water recycling is required. This was noted in a study by Lafarge Tarmac on November 2nd of 2015. They write that the installation of this system includes with it an impermeable membrane, as well as the provision of multiple outlet pipes, so that the water that's captured can be harvested and later reused in various non-potable applications, such as irrigation or flushing toilets. In other words, today's rainwater could be tomorrow's poop water. A further advantage is the incredible effect the system has on suffering ecological systems, such as California's drought. For example, in 2011, NASA.gov noted that the amount of water California would need to recover from its drought is 11 trillion gallons in rain. The director of the Arid Lands Institute from Burbank, California, have recently argued that incentivizing stormwater capture through the use of permeable pavement is the most efficient way to achieve this result. They noted in an interview on July of 2015 that the most efficient way to get this water is through permeable pavement, because the last time California saw that kind of heavy rainfall was in December of 2014, when we received 10 trillion gallons in rain and lost over 2/3 of it due to impermeable materials. This is precisely why the Director of Water Resources at UCLA, Madeline Blickfield, has recently argued that incentivizing stormwater capture through the use of permeable pavement is the best system. That's because it allows the water to stay where it needs to be, and that's back in the ground where it's hurting. A final important advantage to note in the use of this system is that of the water's quality. This was discovered by Atlanta's NPR station on November 1st of 2015, where they state that the use of this system allows the water to increase in quality because it's a better system for stormwater management. This is seen in that normal stormwater management has to deal with the problem of water picking up various oils, pollutants, and toxins on its way down to the drain. But the advantage of this system is the moment the water hits the surface, it immediately percolates into the ground beneath it, and thus it doesn't pick up those various toxins and oils. So Topmix can act both as a drain and a filter. But now that the advantages have been considered, let's briefly consider a few of the most common criticisms to the use of this system. The first criticism, that is perhaps the most infamous of permeable pavement of any kind, is known as the freezing problem. And this problem has always been the clearest in coldest climates, where wherever the water sits, it will, of course, freeze and then prevent further penetration. Now, Lafarge Tarmac claims that they've designed this system particularly to address the freezing problem through their three-tiered approach. By widening the area for the water to sift through, they note that when the water does eventually sit, it's already on the lowest level possible, beneath the permeability level, and so freezing won't prevent further penetration. While they may have an answer to the freezing problem, there are a number of other issues that plague permeable materials of any kind. The Daily Mail noted on November 5th of 2015 that permeable materials have a significantly weaker durability than impermeable pavement. And so it simply can't be used on heavy traffic roads like highways. Now, while technically this is true, we must remember that most property damage from flooding comes not on the heavy traffic roads and highways, but in business areas and residential areas, which is where Topmix can be used. So the appropriate implementation isn't really a criticism, but rather the right way of installing this fascinating new surface. Finally, we need to remember the problem of the product's cost. Topmix does cost nearly twice as much as standard impermeable materials, but the savings are incalculable. And in fact, Topmix has begun to gain traction in a number of different places. No place has embraced the idea of permeable pavement more than China. For example, in June 2015, The Guardian reported that by adopting this system in one of their largest cities, China has been able to cut the cost of their new engineering bills in half. Furthermore, it isn't only large city national governments, but smaller municipal powers that see the advantage of this as well. For example, there's a neighborhood just in East LA, not far from here, that has begun to install permeable pavement. And the professor of engineering at Stanford University, Richard Leffey, notes that at $50 million, the project is an expensive one, but it receives support from a number of different groups. The city likes it because you get to take what was a community blight and turn it into a community resource. Even environmentalists and surfers like it because you're preventing beach pollution through a better stormwater management system. So hopefully with the answers to these criticisms, many more will begin to see the advantage of using the system. This evening we looked at how Topmix works. We surveyed a few of its most important advantages and addressed 3 of its most common criticisms. Topmix is unquestionably the most efficient way to absorb water quickly. And yet, we must not be unrealistic. No amount of Topmix will totally solve for hurricanes and typhoons, and continual maintenance will always be required. And yet, at least we can say it's a more concrete step forward in the right direction. You see, you don't have to live in Southern California to know that water is a precious resource which needs to be conserved carefully. Nor do you have to live in South Carolina to realize something drastic needs to be done about our problem of global flooding. $1 billion could have been saved. Hopefully many more dollars and lives can be saved by paving our roads with Topmix in the future.
Although we are known as the speech and debate team, both speech and debate are uniquely distinct events. What you have seen so far is the speech side of the team performing some of their individual events, IEs for short. Now we will learn a little bit more about how the debaters utilize their communication skills led by one of our debate coaches, Tim Malash.
Thank you and good evening. Glad you all could be here. So a few questions. Calvinism or Arminianism? Complementarianism or egalitarianism? Beyonce or Taylor Swift? We can take a poll later. But these are questions that naturally lead to debate, some more lighthearted than others, but it's debate. And so even as we introduce the topic of debate and how we do it here at Biola to you, we don't want you to think that it's some alien thing. And hopefully we'll clear up some of the misinformation surrounding the event. Here at Biola, we do a specific type of competitive debate, and that's called parliamentary debate. Parliamentary debate is an event in which two teams of two debaters are given a topic to debate. They're assigned the topic and which sides of the topic they're on. They're then given 20 minutes to prepare their argument, just 20 minutes. And then they go in and have a debate. And then they do that 6 times in the course of a tournament in 6 different topics. And then hopefully they go into out rounds and then they do it some more. It's fun. Now, that might not be everybody's definition of fun, but we think it's pretty awesome. Now, this is not like debate you see on TV, especially in a presidential election cycle. This is fast-paced, it's complex, it's nuanced, and it's actually substantive. So, that being said, what we want to do is we want to actually address some of the misinformation that can still persist about debate. And to do that, what we're going to work on is try to demonstrate some of the debate skills to you. Debate skills that we develop with our debaters, such as public speaking, good research skills, critical analysis and thinking. And to the uninitiated, this could actually look a bit like a lot of information being thrown at us, arguments that we might not figure out or understand fully. So we're going to try to address that a little bit through the use of the popular meme, what people think I do, different types of people, and what I think I do. Perhaps you've seen that floating around on Facebook. When we actually look at a debate round, and when we're actually faced with a bunch of arguments, to the uninitiated, it might seem like there's a lot of ideas and words and concepts flying around. It might even become information overload. And that's usually what family and friends think about debate.
Guys, so what about the new Captain America movie?
You know, personally, I'm looking forward to Suicide Squad more,
Yeah.
but I do think that Captain America looks pretty good too.
As long as there's plenty of screen time with Chris Evans, I'm good.
Yeah, but you know what else looks really great? Star Wars Rogue One.
Dude, did you see the trailer? It looks so good.
Wait, you mean the new Star Wars prequel trailer?
Yeah.
Actually, not to be picky, Rogue One isn't a prequel trailer, it's an anthology. I have 3 reasons for this. First off, a prequel usually precedes the original storyline and contains the same characters. For example, episodes 1 through 6 focus on the Skywalker family, and they all include Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Secondly, Rogue One, while in the Star Wars universe, is clearly an anthology in that it doesn't follow the original story arc. It's set in the middle of the original triplet, to which Lucas adds the prequels, aka episodes 1 through 3, which means it's functionally impossible for it to also be a prequel. And lastly, guys, well, I was right.
The temptation to dump information and arguments on the suspecting and unsuspecting does exist for debaters, but that's not all there is to it, and that we try to be sensitive to whether or not people know what we're going to be throwing at them. But debate goes beyond just the argument. It actually looks at research and looks at the information that we have to come up with as we prepare for debates. Now, as I said earlier, we only have 20 minutes to research a debate topic ahead of the debate round, which means that in those 20 minutes, which we call prep time, short for preparation time, in those 20 minutes, we have to do an awful lot of research. We get the topic, it's usually called in over the phone or sent via email, and then we have to start trawling the internet for a bunch of information related to that topic. With some of the debates that we've had to look at and choose to argue on, some of those debate searches get a little odd. And these are actually actual debate searches we have done. So many that when you put them all together, you've got to wonder what the NSA thinks we do.
Okay, topic. The United States federal government should substantially increase its European-based military forces. We're going to need security concerns in Europe, the stability of the EU, alternatives to nuclear war good, nuclear war bad.
Okay, so how many dirty bombs is enough dirty bombs? Are there upsides to nuclear war? What are some email addresses for
secret military bases, how to abolish the EU. Oh, that's a terrible idea. Rhyme that back. How to resurrect the EU. How to hack a terrorist iPhone. How to prevent an iPhone from being hacked. How many members of Congress do we actually need? Can we build Iron Man? How much money to build Iron Man? How to acquire $800 billion? What is a reptoid? Is Donald Trump a reptoid? How to sneak south across the border? Health benefits of meth use? Health benefits of meth use. How to fake federal security checks? Can jet fuel melt steel beams? How to make a homemade bomb? How to build a nuclear bomb? How to hack a nuclear reactor? How to hide a nuclear bomb? How to delete internet history? How to fake a passport? How to get anonymous tickets to the Caymans? Ooh, I like the Caymans. Best high treason lawyers?
Wait, what's the plan text for today?
Same as every day, Miranda. Take over the world.
And as I said, those are searches we've actually had to do. Now, they might seem unrelated, they might seem to all cascade together into a snowball, but what I want to emphasize here is that in doing that research, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out the best arguments to approach a topic, because we're given the topic 20 minutes ahead of time, and we only get which side of the topic, pro or con, a few minutes before that. So we have to be ready to engage with this information rapidly. But that's not how you win a debate. The way you win a debate is you actually have to persuade the judge that your arguments are in fact accurate or valid. And so debate is fundamentally about persuasion, and a lot's going on in the debate round. It is not just an information dump. In a debate round, you have to listen to your opponents, see how the judge is responding to them, and then you also have to be paying attention to how the judge is responding to your arguments. So when we're actually in a debate round, what we're working on is being persuasive, and we utilize those three classical elements of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. And just as a refresher, ethos looks at the credibility or authority of an argument, looks at quality over quantity. Pathos looks at the emotional appeal of the argument, and then logos looks at the logic, the reason, the evidence behind the argument. And so to help us understand this, as we put them together into a debate round, we're going to have three of our debaters actually demonstrate this for us. Now, ethos, pathos, and logos, depending on how they're deployed, can actually have very different sounds and very different language that are used in the debate round. And if they all come together well, they can be powerfully persuasive. And so try guess, as you listen, which is which. Because as coaches, hopefully this happens.
Judge, I have worked really hard to provide you with clear ideas that resonate with what you already know about the situation. Now, these ideas I didn't just come up with, but they have been gathered by numerous historical examples, writings of our current leaders, and news sources covering the crisis. Now, I know that's not just about the quantity of arguments, but these are qualitatively better arguments. You've heard our speeches. You know what's at stake. The children depend on you voting for us. The ideas that we entertain today will shape the actions that we take to change our world tomorrow. We're judges and debaters and idea people, and with this plan, we will change the world.
All right, look, you don't have to like me, but the fact is, I'm winning 26 out of 26 arguments. Much is my argument that says that the children are dying, which is a good thing because it proves that I'm right. Now, they say that my arguments are bad, but the fact is, they only respond to 5 of the 26. And Band-Aids don't really fix bullet holes, right? Now, I've got a lot of ex-partners, and they're going to tell you that I'm insane. But there's a blank space where my opponent's arguments should be. Now, if I sound like an arrogant jerk, I'm sorry. For them, because I'm right. If you like cotton candy and like Donald Trump and rainbows, you can vote for them. But if you like cold, hard facts, well, I am Iron Man.
Okay, and if you wanted the answer key, Val was doing ethos, emphasizing quality and credibility of the argument. Miranda was giving pathos and the appeal to emotion. And then Josh, who is not that awful, but he's actually a really nice and humble guy, was presenting logos in probably one of the darker turns of the logos. So now, as we were talking about a little earlier, college forensics is about speech and debate. There are the individual events, the IEs, and there are the debaters. And it's pretty fun to actually work together to present ideas and concepts in concert with one another, but there is a little bit of sibling rivalry. As debaters, we like to look at the IEers and see how practiced and polished they are. Zach, looks great up there, man. All those visual aids, it's wonderful. But for IEers, sometimes they can look at debaters with our more casual, laid-back way of talking, with our obviously shorter preparation time and not a lot of opportunity to get super polished on our arguments. Our jargon, we speak super fast, it's called speed. Sometimes it goes so fast that we have to raise our hands and say clear to get the other team to slow down. So we're interrupting each other, we're raising hands to ask questions, we use too many obscure movie references. It just gets messy. At least that's what IEers think we do.
Okay, is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Judge ready? Okay.
Framework judge, my partner, and I have no idea what this topic has anything to do with, so instead we're going to spend the next 7 minutes, instead of addressing this, we will deal with talking about a topic that is so obscure the other team will never be able to address it. First, perm severance maintains the sub-intrinsic competing values of a competing interpretations framework.
Clear.
I'll get to you at the bottom. Second, this topic is a priori, and anything that I say in Latin is automatically true, judge. Okay, first, a world in which you vote for the negative team is a world of massive impact. These impacts include, but are not limited to, plague, pestilence, alien invasion, nuclear war, nuclear holocaust reenactments, guerrilla wars, proxy wars, beast wars, civil wars, and civil war reenactments. These are impacts of biblical proportion. Fire and brimstone falling from the sky, real Old Testament kind of stuff. These are impacts of the rivers and seas boiling, 40 years of darkness, the dead rising from the graves, human sacrifice, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. Judge, they said a lot of words, but their words are not as good as our words. At the point where our words are way better than their words, that means we have the best words. You should flow across all the words that the affirmative team says instead of their words. Now they say that if our plan happens, that this will lead to nuclear war, but I have 5 reasons why nuclear war is actually a good thing. Reason number 1, the creation of nuclear weapons builds jobs. Number 2, explosions, they look pretty cool from a distance. Reason number 3, the last time America dropped a nuke, we won World War II. Reason number 4, we are more attractive than the other team. Yes, reason number 5, my opponent is a witch. Gotta check this, do you think he'd float?
Burn him!
Judge, and I may be talking very loud, but if I go fast enough and incoherent enough, you will vote for the affirmative team to make America great again.
So given some of the craziness, I promise it doesn't get that bad. Given some of the craziness and some of the misinformation and stereotypes that debaters have to deal with, the question I think naturally arises, why do it at all? It's because we think it's awesome. When you actually learn the skills of being able to think quickly on your feet, present a persuasive argument, and see it working on the judge, to see them hanging on your every word as you start to sense that you, in the last speech of the round, are going to win, makes you feel like you're going to change the world. And that's what we think we do.
Judge, I'm gonna start time. Wait a second. I see everything. I see the counter-arguments. I see all the rebuttals. How they all intertwine in this vast network of forensics. I see everything. I exist. Time starts. Now, Judge, I have a dream. My plan and their counter-plan can work together to solve for all disadvantages. We're gonna make America great again, not by building a wall, but by tearing down all walls. And here, Judge. So you're gonna vote for me, why? Because yes we can, Judge! Yes we can!
And we certainly think you can. Join the debate team. Okay, like I said at the beginning, it's really fun to see what different groups of people think we do. And so what we actually want to do now is show you what we actually do. In the world of the misinformation stereotypes and the hyperbolic ways we look at this, it can get a little confusing, or it can get a little muddled in terms of thinking about, okay, what does debate actually do? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do an abbreviated debate round in which two of our debaters, Rebecca Mott and Alex Patton, are going to actually present two sides of an argument. The topic that they're going to be debating is the following. The United States federal government should forgive all federal student loans. Rebecca will be arguing in the affirmative. In other words, she'll be arguing to support that side of the resolution, and Alex will be arguing against it.
All right, so everybody's ready? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. The resolution is that the U.S. federal government should forgive all federal student loan debt. The plan of action that we propose is simply that the U.S. federal government, through an act of Congress, will forgive all federal student loans. The advantage to our plan is as follows. The A point is the background. Why is our plan needed? The first reason is $1.3 trillion in student debt. According to the Congressional Budgeting Office, Americans owe $1.3 trillion in student debt. The second reason is 70% of students. According to the Wall Street Journal, 70% of college students are unable to pay off loans even after the course of several years. The third and final reason is 60% of graduates. Crippling student debt makes it almost impossible to attain any semblance of financial success as a college student graduating with a bachelor's degree. According to Reuters, 60% of college graduates 8 to 10 years after graduation are still, quote, under the poverty line when their loan payments are subtracted from their income. As a result of their previous debt, more education is required, which once again acquires more debt, in the hopes of maybe earning enough money to pay off their debts before their life ends. The B point is the links, what our plan does to solve the situation. We allow all student debt to be forgiven. The last point, the C point, is the impacts, the benefits we garner from this plan. The first impact is student quality of life. When I say this, it's easy to write off as simply more debt in a debt-ridden society. But for college students, debt is real and crippling. It can affect all aspects of our life and can undermine many hopes and dreams that we have for our future. A 2013 study by Northwestern found that students with high debt were significantly more prone to mental diseases and to depression, and are 13% more likely to inflict self-harm and even to commit suicide. Imagine a life where, as a college student, financial worries aren't added to every other stress and strain that you have in your daily lives. We think that saving even the life of one student merits our plan. The second impact is economic resurgence. Federal censuses show that loans decrease entrepreneurial growth and reinvestment into the economy, which means reversing debts actually gives back to the economy and helps it flourish. In conclusion, when we look back at the resolution that the federal government should forgive all federal student loan debt, we see that the answer is clear. Vote for the affirmative team in order to increase student quality of life and also to give back to the United States economy. Thank you so much.
Is everybody ready? All right. Well, I'm not going to stand here and say that debt is good. I just can't do that. I also am not going to stand here and say that self-harm or suicide are good. But the benefit of debate is that I do get to stand here and say that maybe, just maybe, the affirmative team's approach to this problem is flawed, and that it's going to put students in the hands of predatory private loan companies, which are going to be far worse for these students than the federal government ever could be. With that in mind, I'd like to propose a disadvantage to the affirmative team's plan to counter their own advantage, which is going to be that of predatory private loans. To explain this, let's take a look at some background. While I agree with my opponent that federal or total student debt is $1.3 trillion, what they did not tell you is that $700 billion of that is actually held privately. What this means is that additionally, corporations charge interest rates of, on average, 6% higher than their federal counterparts. Now, the problem with that is obviously that once the affirmative team eliminates that the options of federal debt or federal loans, this is going to force students into these private loans. let's look at how these loans are still in existence. First, while debt is going to be forgiven, the cost of school is still there. School does not become free. Here's the problem. When Obama's federal student loan forgiveness program went into place, federal or private loans went up by 15%. This is because although loans were forgiven, there were less options for loans. The same is going to happen in this case, which means that because the affirmative team is proposing a forgiveness of all federal loan debt, the amount of private loans are going to go up by significantly more than 15%. Now here's the problem with that, or the impacts. First, we can see empirically from Obama's plan that because more students tried to apply for college and had those less loans that were available, that the private loans increased by 15%. Because of the predatory nature of these loans, this is a significant problem. Now, the affirmative team tries to compare in their first impact students or college students with non-college students in terms of suicide rates. However, a far more apt comparison is students with private loans versus students with federal loans. Because of the reason that we have stated that these private loans are much more predatory and they lead students into much higher interest rates. As the affirmative team's own study from Northwestern says, these students are going to be much more likely to suicidal thoughts, tendencies, and actions. For the reasons, because the affirmative team, by forcing more students into these private predatory loans, become complicit with these companies in the exploitation of students. Their world is never going to be a better one, and a negative ballot is justified. Thank you.
And that's what we do. Quite apart from the hyperbolic generalizations that might be directed or assumed about debate, what we do is we work hard to understand the relevant questions that are shaping our society and culture today. So if that's something that is of interest to you, of engaging with current events and the ideas and individuals that are shaping them, and if you want to do that in an environment in which you can engage the broader academic society from junior colleges to the Air Force Academy, you can talk to me, Daniel, Sean, or any of our debaters. We'd love to talk to you about it more. Thank you.
Poetry comes in a variety of different forms, whether it be spoken word, lyrics from a song, or haikus. In forensics, a whole bunch of poems are woven together to explore one specific topic of interest. The poetry event is unique in that the poems are read more in the form of a story rather than using the rhyme schemes that they may have been written with. In Jamie Lane's program, she delves into the emotional devastation and healing process that accompanies surviving a natural disaster. This topic is important to Jamie so she can raise awareness about the all too common hardships that are not discussed enough considering their frequency. So now we invite Jamie Lane up to the stage to perform her poetry to all the survivors.
Until just a short time ago, I had my everyday life. The warm breeze of 4 p.m. was gently blowing, and the blithe atmosphere in the streets that day was a pure display of vibrant and exciting images, mixed together with the familiar cacophony of sounds emanating from all horizons, gently caressing the roadways at the pace of the city's daily traffic jam. When suddenly, like a thunderbolt from the serene sky, Mother Nature unleashed its sudden fury. I heard this cracking sound, and I didn't know where, and I saw around me things were shaking, and buildings were shaking, and roads were breaking, and people were running everywhere, and they were trying to find a place to hide, but they didn't know what to do or where they were going. I am under the debris of the earth. They call me by name. I do not answer. I have no
voice or strength. I breathe in, then I don't, and I breathe again.
Afghanistan 7.5, Nepal 7.9, and Japan 9.0. But even after earthquakes with magnitudes such as these, life still continues on. But one way that people have found to cope with such traumatic events is through the writing of poetry. Because according to the Journal of Poetry Therapy in January 2015, practicing poetry can contribute to one flourishing with greater psychological well-being. After the earthquake in Nepal, Nepali native Samyuk Shertok began a Kickstarter called Healing Through Poetry, where he'd listen to the stories of other survivors and turn them into poems in order to raise funds. In his campaign video, he states, "I have witnessed firsthand the power of poetry. It provides a certain kind of peace and relief to patients that morphine will never be able to do." Now, the Nepalese are not the only ones who've turned to poetry for healing. This program contains pieces that were written